Hey, I'm your average storyteller here, and today, instead of telling you all a story, I want to talk about why Genshin Impact's latest story addition, Chapter 2, Omnipresence over Mortals, was really bad. I will cut to the chase immediately. Firstly, it relies too much on plot convenience. A plot convenience is an action that contradicts the logic of the story or relies too much on dumb luck just because the author wants certain things to happen at a certain point. This happens multiple times during the Inazuma story chapters. I'm gonna give you some examples. Traveler gets saved multiple times by people when they're in trouble. First, Traveler saves Thoma just in time, just for Thoma to save the Traveler just in time when they return from the plane of Etumia. Then later on in Act 2, Kokomi, Kazuha, Beidou and merchants arrive just in time to save the resistance and therefore Traveler as well. Then while in Impending Doom, Yae saves Traveler just in time from Scaramouche. Even more lucky events just take place as the resistance happened to strike the city just when the Traveler was about to be killed by the Shogun, and Beidou's tournament The Crux Clash was taking place exactly when Traveler wanted a free ticket to Inazuma. And probably the most abhorrent example of this is when Traveler discovers Keiichi's ledger. It is very convenient that we happen to follow the bad guy right when he's proceeding to go on with his evil schemes, just so we can find the ledger and use it against him. Like, why was he even burying the ledger? Just keep it safe on your house or something. Then we have some plot holes that make absolutely no sense. Kokomi is an army general, genius and brilliant strategist. However, she still trusts Fatui to give them supplies. Sure, it is mentioned that Kokomi doesn't know that their supplier and supporter is in fact Fatui, but why didn't Kokomi do any research into their supporters? Are you just gonna say that Fatui sent their aid through mail or something and didn't meet with Kokomi or Goro face to face when they applied to be the resistance supporters? Then Thoma is waiting at Tori 2 for Traveler's arrival. He clearly knew that Traveler is gonna arrive to Inazuma with Beidou's ship. Then Ayaka says that she has been anticipating Traveler's arrival and her first request was, "Traveler, lend us power." Think about it. Ayaka's plan to break out Master Masakatsu relies heavily on Traveler's involvement, and overall she saw Traveler as a potential ally, so how did she know beforehand that they were gonna sail to Inazuma? This is also very convenient for the plot, as without Ayaka's and Thoma's help, Traveler wouldn't have figured out how people without their visions are actually suffering. And if Traveler didn't befriend Thoma, they wouldn't have helped him during Act 2, which spirals them to meet the resistance and discover Fatui's plan. Something that really bothered me is the fact that no one noticed that the Sangonomiya soldiers are actually aging when they're using Delusions. For real, if Teppei ages around 60 years in 1 week, how was this only noticed when they had significantly aged? We could have saved multiple people early on if someone noticed that people are aging like 5 years per day. Just think about it. The worst of them all, Kazuha and other members of the resistance have somehow made it to Inazuma City despite being hunted by the shogunate. If they came from Yashiori Island, they must have sailed all the way to Narukami Island, and doesn't a shogun have a navy of any sorts? Some decisions that these writers did for the story chapter are just really stupid. Take this black screen timeskip for example. Instead of the black screen, we could have some gameplay for that 2 days or conversations with Kokomi or Goro that could have fleshed out their characters more and made them more likable. Also, who thought it was a good idea to add so much information into the last dialogue with Yae Miko? It is extremely underwhelming as the information she gives you is very important, but it is treated as filler. And while the game explains you why the Sangonomias are in war with Raiden Shogun, we don't have any bond with Kokomi or Goro, so it is very hard to understand their motives. Kokomi, Goro or any resistance fighter, they're just kinda standing there doing absolutely nothing. As for Teppei, we don't really get to bond with him enough to really care about his death. We don't really know anything about him, so why should we care if he dies? His death was only there to be a plot device, so going after the Fatui with vengeance would be somehow justified. Speaking of Fatui, I was disappointed on how Signora died. The problem itself isn't necessarily that she died, but how she died. Her death leaves no impact on the player because we haven't interacted with her enough. At this point of the story, we have met Signora twice. Once at Mondstadt and once at Liyue. For example, compare Signora with Tartaglia. We hung out with Tartaglia since the beginning of the Liu story chapter, and he was okay with Travelers and Zhongli's outrageous money usage. Even further, when he fought with Traveler, he wasn't dueling Traveler to death until the last cutscene, like Signora was. Tartaglia's fight felt like it had an impact. Signora's boss fight has no depth, as we don't even know her. And why was Signora visiting the Shogun anyway? Scaramouche already obtained her Gnosis. Just leave the country and let your henchmen continue corrupting already corrupt commissions. Only explainable reason for her to be there is to provide plot convenience and a gorgeous arena for her weekly boss fight. But even worse, MiHoYo inherently just threw away a villain. Now that Signora is dead, that means that they can introduce a new Harbinger when we make our way to Sumeru. However, but now we know that Harbingers aren't shielded by plot armor anymore, and they can actually die, so what is even the point when writers are gonna use them as cheap plot devices, then kill them off later? From now on, no character is safe, especially if they aren't in a game, as playable characters. Which is good if you care about the action, but it is also not good if you're saving for a specific character, like Signora in this case. And when you're looking at the hindsight, Signora's character feels completely useless. If you look at Liu's and Mondstadt's cutscenes later on, you will realize that the whole build-up on Signora's character and her being a main antagonist was a complete waste of time. Why should we care about upcoming villains if they just get killed that easily? One of my biggest complaints though was the fact that we had so many cool things happening during the chapter 2, such as the Civil War, but because we can't see it happening around us, it feels like it's a completely empty world that has nothing happening inside of it. Take for example Grand Theft Auto 5, where if you are free roaming around the city, you can have random events that actually make the city feel alive, as if people were going on with their normal lives. Can we have something like this in Genshin, please? As Genshin's NPCs are just standing, doing nothing. However, it is made even worse with Inazuma, that literally is in civil war, but we can't see any fighting happening, so it feels like there's no civil war whatsoever. Overall, the game feels very limiting, as most of the time when there's action, the game just plays a cutscene as if we had no control of what is happening around us. Why couldn't we fight against Shogunate army during Act 2? Or why couldn't we participate in the heist on Act 3 and Sayu just does all the work for us? NPCs are constantly telling us that certain events are taking place, but for us it's just useless noise as we don't see any of those events taking place and we can't participate in them. Another thing that bothered me is Raiden A's character. She doesn't seem to care about her people whatsoever and just thinks that the Vision Hunt decree is for the best. I don't think she realizes that the Sakuko decree is a de facto embargo to every other Teivati country. The storm barrier around Inazuma was made solely to stop people from accessing Inazuma, or better yet, leaving it. So wouldn't this be enough to stop any sort of trading between 7 nations and Inazuma? How is Inazuma's economy even surviving over this decree? I know this is a fictional fantasy world where resources are respawning every 3 days, but come on, just wait till isolated Inazuma people learn of Rex Lapis' death, therefore meaning the end of the Teyvat's Mora production. She is also extremely selfish, as even though she loves Inazuma, the main thing she really cares about is her eternity. So I think her tyrannical rule over Inazuma is absolutely unacceptable, which is why it pisses me off that MiHoYo made Raiden a lovable waifu that is just misunderstood. Her decision making is also really ridiculous. I find it weird that she decides to abolish the Vision Hunt decree only because she has lost in the duel and had a cute conversation with Yae Miko. And why did her puppet let a traveler go off the Tenshukaku, but then try to kill them on the gate? It literally just feels like they just wanted to let the resistance somehow fight against Shogun, and they just had no idea how to execute it properly. But it is okay, Kazuha was there to rescue Traveler, how convenient. However, essentially, Chapter 2 has a problem with a terrible pacing. Prologue and Act 1 were decently paced, but then Act 2 is like 20 minutes of game time. I think this is because they wanted us to play through Ayaka's and Yoimiya's story quests, as well as they couldn't expand in Azuma as quickly because they still had to make Awatatsumi Island and Seirai Island, which is why they had to move the Resistance plotline to update 2.1. We had terribly long Act 3 with a rushed storyline and too much information stuffed into one package. And in the end, we barely got anything done in Azuma. Traveler gained no intel on their sibling, Archons don't know anything useful, and the Fatui just keeps getting away with Knossos every single time, even if the Knossos seem to be really useless. Even Paimon didn't care about Electro Archon's Knossos in the end. Sure, we got to experience amazing world quests like a sacred Sakura cleansing ritual and Orobashi's legacy, but isn't it quite sad when unvoiced side quests were better and deeper than the main Archon quest? Every upcoming region is going to have similar issues within them. Traveler has already met their sibling, they know their sibling is alive and well, so what is the point of meeting the Seven? The Seven refuse to give us vital information and just encourage us to explore more. When we eventually enter Sumeru, they are going to have a national crisis out there. Traveler helps the people of Sumeru to solve it, and Dendro Archon's Gnosis gets stolen. Like seriously, I know it's really hard to come up with compelling story, but the story is already really repetitive. In fact, you could skip in Azuma's storyline completely, just replace visiting in Azuma with Sumeru and explain Signora's death with a black screen or something, and the result would be exactly the same. What did Traveler accomplish in Azuma? Exactly, absolutely nothing. Oh, and also MiHoYo, give us stealth moveset for normal gameplay, please! Which is why the chapter 2 of the Archon storyline just feels like filler. Thanks for watching. Oh, you all are still here. Oh, wow. Okay, what can I say? This video was originally meant to be like 2 hours long, doing a whole breakdown through the story, the gameplay, the characters, but I think it would be just a waste of time for both me and you, the viewers. In fact, I went through multiple scripts, as you can see here, and this video is coming out very late. As I'm talking right now, Kokomi's banner is about to end. This video was supposed to come out like half a month ago, but it is what it is. Anyway, let me stop the rambling. This channel is not meant to be a Genshin channel, so if you enjoyed this video and you are looking forward for Genshin content, I don't recommend subscribing, unfortunately, because I love Genshin. I will surely make more videos at some point, but I made this channel to let me have a platform to criticize media and especially games I enjoy, or not enjoy in this case. It may seem that I hated the Chapter 2, but I actually really like it. But in hindsight, the story is really bad. It's just terrible. But if you're looking forward for more critical content, subscribe and like the video for algorithm. I don't know how it works. This is my first video on this channel, so yeah. Again, thanks for watching and take care.